6 months ago, I bought a cheap Kings Lithium battery for $400 and installed it on the underside of my Nissan Patrol. 6 months later, and after our big trip to Queensland, it's dead. And today, we're going to find out why.
Oh, gee. Oh, yeah, that's fried.
All right, so we managed to get the battery out of the car. It's not the easiest job in the world, but we did it. And just quickly, before we start tearing into this thing, I just want to touch on a couple little things speculating about what I think may have happened to it. So, as you would have seen when we were up in Queensland, one of the things we did was go through an underbody car wash. Now, when you're coming off the beach, you don't want any salt left on your car, so you go through, they have these special washing stations or car washers that shoot 5,000 PSI pressure water from jets up through the bottom of your car to wash all the salt off. Now, obviously this is mounted under my tray, meaning it is exposed to all the elements. And I think in the process, water has worked its way between the top of the battery and the floor of the tray and then seeped into the gap, the join where the two separate halves of the casing meet. Now, as you can see here, there is dirt and sand caught on top. So if there's dirt and sand there, definitely water got there at some point. And so I think water's seeped in, and I think it's potentially fried the BMS, because what essentially was happening is I could still draw off the battery while it still had charge, but it wouldn't charge. So, and that's from what I think is up to the BMS to tell the battery when to accept charge and not to. So that's my speculation anyway. Now, when I bought this battery, I was fully aware that Kings did not list this battery with waterproof rating, essentially. It said on their website, and I'll actually quote to you what it said, Adventure Kings lithium batteries are made from a durable ABS casting that is dust-proof and water resistant. Now, there is a note as well here that says Adventure Kings lithium batteries are not recommended for marine or underbonnet applications. So I didn't do the underbonnet application. I technically didn't do marine application, although it was exposed to water. So I guess that is marine in the word. So if we do find water inside, just note that they don't say that this is a sealed lithium battery. Now, another thing that I do want to touch on is the way in which you mount your battery and its orientation. Now, I know when I first put this in, there were a few people talking about the fact that I'd mounted mine on its side. And when I bought this battery, there was nothing on the website to suggest that it needed to be mounted in a vertical position on its base. And from what my understanding of lithium iron phosphate batteries, because the cells don't have any liquid inside them, there shouldn't really be any which way you need to mount the battery. Now, another good way to think of that is if you take like a lithium iron phosphate battery bank, just like one that Kings sell, for example, think about a portable battery bank. You're never worried about which way it's orientated when you're charging your phone. You can flip it on all sides, whichever way, and it's never an issue. So I don't see how a battery like this could be any different in that regard. However, another aspect to that is how the battery itself is constructed, and this can differ between different manufacturers of battery, depending on where the padding is located in the battery, whether it's on the side or on the base, where different components are located within the casing could all determine whether it's actually safe to mount on its side or if it has to be mounted upright. So with that all covered, let's start tearing into this battery and see if we can figure out what went wrong. And note that when I start pulling this thing apart, it is going to void the warranty because, look, if I really wanted to, I probably could have almost got it replaced. I haven't had it for that long, but this is in the name of science. And honestly, I just want to see how it handled it all because it was a good battery and I want to see whether it's worth getting another one if this one is fried. So anyway, let's start pulling it apart. Oh yeah, there's moisture in there. Oh yeah, there's a lot of moisture in there. And corrosion on the BMS.
Oh, gee. Oh, yeah, that's fried. Oh, yeah.
You know what is funny though, and I've seen pull downs before, it's crazy how much smaller the battery itself is in the whole casing.
Yeah, I know, the battery just, it is, isn't it? It's crazy.
But maybe it's because they need to fit in protection around it, which is probably fair enough.
Look how wet the BMS is.
Yeah, so it is glued.
But
it's not waterproof yet. Which is funny too, because obviously they don't want to warrant it being waterproof because it's just a whole other thing to look after. But they could very easily run a bead of silicon through there when they assemble it. And it would pretty much, I reckon, seal it. So like that's double-sided tape to the casing.
You kind of realize how cheap shit's all put together.
Yeah. All right, so I've got the casing off the battery. And the first thing that is very obvious to see is there is a lot of moisture inside here. Not just droplets, but I can see like puddled water in the bottom of the casing. It has had a very significant effect on the BMS. There's a lot of corrosion and rust. So what we might try and do is see if I can pull some of these components out and then explain to you as I pull them apart, and we might be able to have a better look. Quite different in construction to the 120 amp hour batteries. That's obviously how they make it slimline. So this is what I'm talking about as well in terms of the battery orientation, determining which way it can be mounted. this appears to have padding on every side of the battery. So to me, that says that you could theoretically mount it in any way possible because it can't, the cells inside the casing can't jiggle around. There is all lots of packing, which actually makes the battery a lot bigger than it actually, than the cells actually are too. There's a bunch of squiggly stuff down there which looks like some sort of adhesive that they've probably put in the bottom and just sat the battery in there.
Yeah, true.
Oh my God, there's a lot of water coming out. Oh. You actually kind of have to be careful here too, because if this gets punctured and water gets into the lithium cells, then you can start a crazy big fire too. So this is not ideal, essentially.
Don't try this at home, is that what you're trying to say?
Yeah, pretty much. We're pretty much playing with fire. There's a lot of moisture in there.
Oh, jeez. Look at it coming out of
And yeah, they're not prismatic cells, they're pouch cells. So all the reason I went into this thinking that these were going to be prismatic cells because all the other battery teardowns on the Kings 120 and 200 amp hours have been prismatic, and prismatic pretty much means they got a hard casing, but these are actually pouch cells, so like a soft case, which makes them much more susceptible to being punctured for one. But yeah, these are pouch cells. Actually, and let's have a close look now as well while we've got it out, if I carefully. The BMS is absolutely caked. So they've got like some sort of insulation that's disintegrated into nothing because of the moisture.
Oh yeah, jeez. Yeah.
Like this is all, like you can't reuse that, it's all cooked, it's all had moisture all through it. If I lift up this flap here, you can see all of the individual lithium cells here. Now they've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 cells, which makes up our, 12-volt battery. And yeah, these are like a pouch style cell, so they're soft casing. Another thing that I found pretty interesting when I was researching about cheaper lithium batteries, that a lot of them use secondhand lithium cells. So even though we've got 8 cells here and they'll make up your 100 amp hour capacity, you might have found that when these cells were brand new, they might have made up 200 amp hours. So essentially the companies buy secondhand cells and just get enough of them to make up the required amount. But if they were new, you could have had half the amount. So with all the different cells of the battery exposed, I can actually go along and test the voltage of each cell and then see if it adds up to the whole voltage reading that I'm getting off the battery. Now, the job of the BMS is to keep all these cells equal in voltage. So what we're gonna do now is use the multimeter to test each one, and we'll see if it's doing its job. I suspect that it isn't. And because these are all connected in series, essentially you're adding the voltages of each cell as opposed to it being in parallel and each one being already at 12 volts. So starting with the first cell, 2.68. So this next cell should be the same voltage, 2.68 as well. 2.42. Next cell, again, should be around that 2.5 region. Let's see. 0.8 of a volt. Already, that's very scary. That's not good. And our last cell, 0.3. So there you go. So if you sort of do a quick math on that, 2.6 plus 2.4 is 5, plus 0.8 plus 0.3, we should be looking at about 6 volts, give or take, if I measure the whole battery. And let's do that now. 5.6. So, roughly. But you can see there what I mean. The cell voltages add up. But the problem is obviously that they're not even, and that's because the BMS isn't working properly. So I think it is fried. In terms of what that means for the cells, now I spoke to a mate of mine who has built his own lithium batteries before, and he pretty much told me that as soon as one of these cells drops below 2.4 volts, that's when they start to degrade. And being at 0.8 and 0.3, these two are pretty much cactus. He said pretty much, look, you could try revive them, but they won't perform as well as they used to. They may not hold charge as well. They won't discharge the same, and it can also lead to issues. Even if you did get a new BMS, which we did think about potentially being able to do, having 2 dead cells in there would mean that the battery won't balance properly. And yeah, if I wanted to rebuild this battery, I'd need a new BMS as well as 2 new cells to go with these ones, but I have to try and find cells that are, the same size, just to make everything fit together nicely. So yeah, essentially for a $400 battery, it's becoming a lot more work than it's worth, essentially. And it is at this point that I can't help but think to myself, gee, I should have just walked into a King store and said, can I have a new one? And they might have said yes, who knows. Although, in saying that, me and Patrick have been watching these batteries very closely because they must have sold out so well that there's no longer any stock in the country, and I think they're not due back until it was end of May or something ridiculous, that they don't have these batteries back. And they've gone up in price. I paid $3.99 for it, now they're $5.99. So seeing that we've established that these cells are dead and are no good to us, we're actually gonna pull one apart and see what's inside. I've always been interested to see what's inside here, and I'm sure you guys will be too. So we're gonna pull it apart and Just see what they're made up of. It's like slicing open a chicken. All right.
There you go, battery bank. Oh, thanks. Take that to charge my phone later.
I don't think it's the right voltage, unfortunately. People will probably look at me with a knife and a lithium battery like, you idiot. Oh, that's what I'm used to seeing. So we just pulled apart a couple of the cells out of one of the pairs, and we've noticed that they've actually got a sticker on them which has amp hour rating and also a date. Now this date could be the date it was manufactured, or it could have been the date it was purchased, or perhaps it could even be the date that it was sold or bought secondhand. We don't know.
Now, since this cell has no charge in it, Patrick and I wanted to open it up to take a closer look at what makes up a lithium battery. Now, disclaimer, do not try this at home, because if you do this with a charged cell, it could end very badly.
Oh, I'm really tempted to...
Just put the knife in there.
I don't know.
What's the worst gonna happen?
It's a Willy Wonka bar. Might find a golden ticket in here. I might win a lifetime supply of King's batteries. So many people are probably looking at this video right now like cringing, like, what are you actually doing, you idiot? This is why women live longer than men.
So here we've actually opened up our dead lithium cell to show you the elements that actually make it work. Now, disclosure, do not try this at home, because opening up a charged lithium cell like this and exposing the elements to the atmosphere could cause it to suddenly combust. So as you can see inside the cell here, we've got all these different layers here. Now, the copper looking layer is our cathode and anode, and that conducts the electrons. And then we also have this black electrolyte separator layer, and that actually stops the electrons from passing through and forces them to run around through the circuit and power your appliances. And that's pretty much how these batteries work.
The take-home points are pretty much, King's batteries are not waterproof or even water resistant, so make sure you keep them in a place that is dry and away from moisture. 2, I need a new battery, so this is where you guys come in. I'm not sure whether do I buy another King's, do I get another cheap lithium battery, do I get an upper market high quality lithium battery, or do I build my own lithium battery? Leave down in the comments below what you reckon I should do, because I will need a battery pretty soon. But yeah, now we've got to find a way to dispose of this. We will be disposing it in a proper way at a proper waste facility. So yeah, I'm not just going to toss this in landfill, because that probably wouldn't end very well. But anyway, hopefully you enjoyed this video. Hopefully you found it interesting and learned a little bit along the way too. So look out for the next episode, and we'll see you in the next one.